All the big companies you see today were once mid-caps, still early and growing and not very popular. Now think about the investors who spotted them back then. They didn't just earn returns, they got to see compounding. Because the biggest gains usually come when a company is still scaling. That's the thought behind this video. We look for mid-cap companies that are growing fast, expanding their business, but are not yet in the spotlight. Hi, I'm Aparna, and today we'll cover 5 mid-caps from 5 different sectors that we shortlisted after studying their numbers and business trends. For each one, I'll break down what the company actually does and the key numbers you should track as an investor in the simplest way possible. So stay till the end of the video because you will also learn how to think about analyzing a stock, not just picking one. So let's begin with the first one, AU Small Finance Bank. There's actually a very interesting story here. AU Small Finance Bank did not even start as a bank. It started as a vehicle finance NBFC. Yes. And now it has received approval to become a universal bank. And this is a big deal. Let me tell you why. As a small finance bank, AU had a few restrictions on where and how it could lend. Like it had to lend more to priority sectors, similarly certain rules in corporate and larger loans. But once it becomes a universal bank, these restrictions gradually reduce, which means it can lend to more segments, scale faster, and compete directly with larger private banks. In short, the size of the opportunity becomes much bigger. And here's what makes this transition even more interesting for investors. This is not a small bank trying to fix itself. This is a bank that has already built scale despite these restrictions. Let's look at the numbers. The total assets have grown from 1.09 lakh crore in FY24 to 1.65 lakh crore by the first half of this financial year. Deposits are growing 23% year on year, which if you see is faster than the overall system growth. That tells us the franchisee is already strong. Now let's talk profitability because that's where AU really stands out. The bank focuses on retail segments where it can earn higher interest like vehicle loans, micro business loans and gold loans. Because of this, its net interest margins stay in the 5 to 6% range, which is again higher than many traditional banks. And how is it doing so? So basically, AU borrows at roughly 6.5% and lends at around 11 to 14%. Asset quality is also stabilizing. Another important shift is geography. Earlier, the bank was heavily concentrated in Rajasthan. Now that exposure has reduced to 26%. Southern markets are still underpenetrated, which gives a fresh growth runway. But here's the real risk investors should track: deposits. Its CASA or current account savings account ratio is around 29%, which is still lower than large private banks. As AU becomes a universal bank, it will need more stable, low-cost deposits. If competition for deposits increases, it may have to raise money at higher interest rates, and that can put pressure on margins even if the loan book keeps growing. Now, this is how the one-year returns look like for AU, 92.5%. So let's see how AU transitions over the next few years. For now, let's move on to the next stock on our list, Persistent Systems. This is a different kind of business. The company sits right at the center of digital engineering, cloud, data, and now AI. Basically, it helps global companies build and transform their tech systems. And the most interesting part is their consistency. Over the last 12 months, the revenue has crossed $1.59 billion, growing about 18.5% year on year. Last quarter alone, they did a revenue of $422.5 million, and this marked the 23rd straight quarter of sequential growth. That level of consistency is rare, especially in a volatile IT market. But growth alone is not enough. We also need to see the quality of growth, and this is where it gets stronger. Its annual contract value, which is basically the yearly revenue logged in from signed deals, is around $1.68 billion. Plus, the number of clients contributing more than $5 million annually has increased to 61. This tells us one thing clearly: Persistent is moving from smaller projects to larger long-term deals. Now let's talk about margins. Even while growing fast, EBIT margins are around 16 to 17%. For a high-growth IT company, maintaining such margins shows strong pricing discipline and efficient delivery. But investors should also watch the AI angle carefully. Right now, Persistent is positioning itself as an AI-led transformation partner. It has built AI platforms and has thousands of AI-related certifications. That's a clear strategic advantage. But AI is a double-edged sword. Another risk is geographic concentration. Around 80% of revenue comes from North America. So any slowdown in US tech spending can directly impact growth. Now this is how the last 1 year performance looks like for Persistent. Minus 12.72%. This could be because the IT companies are facing negative sentiment and Persistent hasn't been an exception. So the opportunity is very real. Strong deal wins, AI positioning, and consistent growth. But the key question for investors is simple. Can Persistent convert AI-led efficiency into sustained revenue growth, that too without hurting margins? Now let's talk about company number 3. ICICI Prudential AMC, a business that grows as more and more Indians start investing. Asset management. It currently manages about 10.7 lakh crore of assets, which is up around 23% year on year. Out of this, nearly 6 lakh crore is in equity funds and about 2 lakh crore is in hybrid funds. And here's something important. The company has more than 26% market share in hybrid funds. Why this is important? Because these funds usually attract investors who want a balance of growth and stability, which makes the money more stable even during volatile markets. Now look at how strong the business model is. In the latest quarter, revenue was around 1,515 crore while expenses were only about 405 crore. That leaves an operating profit of roughly 1,110 crore. This is the key strength of AMC business you should notice. Once the platform is built, more assets can be added without costs rising at the same pace. So profits can grow faster than revenue. That's also why return on equity for the 9 months is close to 88%, which is extremely high and shows how capital light and scalable this model is. Another positive here is diversification. The company manages about 75,000 crore in higher fee products like PMS and AIFs, which typically earn better margins than regular mutual funds. They have also expanded into Dubai and Gift City and launched their ISIF platform with long-short strategies to attract both global and sophisticated investors. But there are a few things investors should track. First, regulation. If expense ratio limits get tighter, margins can come under pressure. Second, market cycles. If markets fall sharply and SIP inflows slow down, asset growth can moderate. Third, fund performance. Because in asset management, consistent underperformance can quickly lead to outflows. Now, if we look at the 1 year returns for ICICI Pru AMC, it's 16.98%, though it just got listed in December. Overall, this is a scale-driven business riding India's financialization trend. Now, let's talk about stock number 4 on our list, GMR Airports. GMR Airports is not just building airports anymore, it's slowly becoming a long-term cash-generating platform built around passenger traffic, retail, cargo, parking, and duty-free. And this shift is very important. Earlier, airport revenues were heavily dependent on regulated aero charges, which means pricing was controlled. But now GMR is increasing its focus on non-aero income too, which are higher margin and more controllable revenue streams. In FY25, their consolidated revenue crossed 10,400 crore and EBITDA expanded to over 4,180 crore. But what matters more is the quality of that EBITDA because a larger share is now coming from these non-aero businesses. Another big trigger is the Delhi airport tariff reset. Earlier, the airport was earning around 145 rupees per passenger from regulated charges. Now that has been reset to around 360 rupee per passenger till FY29. So basically, for every passenger that flies, GMR earns more than before, and this is locked in for the next few years. On top of that, all the retail, food, and duty-free income adds extra profit. There's also financial cleanup happening. The company is also restructuring and refinancing its debt. This matters because airport businesses have high borrowing costs. So if interest costs go down while earnings keep rising, the overall value for shareholders can improve much faster over time. Outside India, GMR is also involved in global airports, so it's not just an Indian story anymore. It's also slowly building a global presence for long-term growth. But investors should also clearly watch the risks here. First, debt. The company still has high debt and big repayments are due around 2027-28. Second, execution risk. Large ongoing projects are still under development and will need continuous capital and smooth execution. And third, non-aero growth. If revenue from this stream grows slower than expected, cash flow improvement can get delayed. Now let's look at the GMR stock performance over the last 1 year. It has given 39.87% returns. Okay, now let's move on to company number 5, Nykaa. Now this one is a very different story. Nykaa is not just an online beauty platform, it's trying to become the go-to destination for beauty in India, online, offline, and through its own brands. And that market itself is still growing fast, which gives it a long runway. If you look at the last quarter, the platform sold products worth about 5,795 crore, with revenue at 2,873 crore, both growing around 27 to 28% year-on-year. But the real shift is this: profitability is slowly catching up with growth. EBITDA came in at 230 crore with margins around 8%, improving sharply as the business scales. The beauty segment here is doing the heavy lifting. It alone contributed over 4,300 crore of GMV, that is the total value of products sold, and operates at higher margins of about 10%. As more users shop across its apps, stores, and B2B channels, operating leverage is kicking in. Now, the more interesting part here is strategy. Nykaa is not just selling other brands, it's increasing control over the entire value chain. For example, it has taken over full operations for brands like Kiehl's in India and secured exclusive distribution for a few brands on its platform. This makes global brands more dependent on Nykaa over time. At the same time, its own brands are scaling very fast. Dot & Key is already growing 100% year-on-year. K-Beauty is around 500 crore, and these in-house brands come with much better margins. Offline is also becoming a strong lever. Nykaa now has 276 stores across 94 cities, and its fragrance-focused stores are seeing almost 3 times higher average order value than regular stores, which shows premium demand is rising. But investors should watch out for a few risks. The fashion segment is still loss-making at around -2%. EBITDA and store expansions means higher fixed costs if break-even takes time. Now let's look at Nykaa's stock performance for the last 1 year. It gave 61.5% returns. So overall, Nykaa is not just chasing sales growth, it is slowly building control over brands, distribution, and customer behavior in India's beauty market. So these were the 5 mid-cap stocks with their stories and numbers that back them. What's one mid-cap you think is still not in the spotlight? Tell us in the comments. And also, if you want a similar video on small caps, then you know what to do. Comment small cap. Please like and subscribe to our channel if these videos are helping you learn something new. See you in the next one.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.